fuck you, Nintendo. Genuinely. I think it's unbelievable how you guys were able to bully a small indie team into shutting down what was two of the best emulators, in my opinion, to the emulation community. Now, this video is going to mean almost nothing to anybody, but I just want to put this out there because I would like everybody to know what my stance is on this. I've always been a Nintendo fan ever since I could breathe or blink or just see. I've always just loved Nintendo games. I remember my grandmother gave me a green Game Boy Color, and it had like now that I think of it, it's extremely funny because I used to have the 3001 cartridge bootleg games, and it's super funny to think about now because I've always just been a pirate, I guess, even unwillingly or unknowingly. As long as I could remember, Nintendo's always been the harbor of comfort games. And as much as I hate to admit it, Nintendo has made one of the best innovations in gaming history. Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, Sunshine, Mario 64. I mean, even outside of Mario, Zelda just has a huge influence on games still today. But this doesn't go without saying how bullshit and anti-consumer Nintendo is. Their business decisions always have fucking upset me more than anything. And it's so hard to be a fan as much as a hater. But up until recently, I didn't even touch my Switch for a year. But the only reason I'd like to mention now that I've actually brought back, I had to dust off my Switch after like a long ass time because on and off for like half a decade already. The Switch has been out for 7 goddamn years already, and there's still not a more powerful version of the Switch, and it makes no sense to anyone, and it shouldn't make sense to anybody. But the only reason I went back to my Switch and I bought an RCM jig so I can mod my Switch is first to finally fix my Joy-Cons. I installed anti-drift analog sticks so I could actually use them again, because for the longest time my 2 red Joy-Cons that I bought, they had drift, probably like not even a year after I bought them, so they were basically unusable for a long time, and it was only until last week that I decided to finally, open up my Joy-Cons and finally install this really nice looking shell. By the way, it's like it's a translucent red, like to the old Nintendo 64, but in red instead of purple. But it still looks really nice. I was thinking about switching out the buttons, but I think it looks better this way since white would get like easily dirty, and I think it looks nicer like this. Now here in the corner, I'm going to be showing you gameplay of my modded Switch. Up until a week ago, I decided to finally mod my Switch again, like finally keep it, because the first 3 times that I did mod my Switch, I didn't do it correctly. I didn't partition the SD card correctly and things were messed up. My SD card would end up corrupting often. I was just a real like noob at it at first, but then eventually this time around I figured it out, and while doing that I may have banned my Switch by accident. It's ironic because I wanted to. It's not like I was going to play online Nintendo games. It's not like I was gonna use my Switch online anymore. I was definitely not gonna touch the eShop anymore. But I just think it's extremely. I did it completely mistakenly because before the first 3 times that I tried modding my Switch, I partitioned the SD card like the guide says online, and you're supposed to include a text file in one of the folders for the homebrew, and I just completely forgot about that And it just so happens that I decided to install custom firmware on my sysnan, which is the main, the main storage for the console. And so by doing that, I basically, Nintendo saw immediately, because I was connected to the internet for some reason, and I immediately turned off my Switch. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to do the text file. I returned on my Switch, wiped the custom firmware, and I had tinfoil installed at that point, so it was basically too late. Nintendo already saw what I was doing, and they banned my Switch. So it's a win-win situation, because now I definitely can't buy any more Nintendo games, even on impulse if I wanted to. But it's not like I was going to anyway. But it kind of sucks that if just so happened if I wanted to play Mario Kart or Mario Maker 2 again, which again I was not gonna do anyway, but if I'm bored one day and I wanted to, I would have to pay money to play those games again, and I just wasn't gonna do that. And it's never like I was gonna buy a brand new unpatchable Switch just so I could play online with friends. Like, I'm just not gonna do that anymore. Maybe 3 years ago, or how long ago was the OLED? Do you guys believe that the OLED is 3 fucking years old this year? And that's just unbelievable to me. I remember when I first got my Switch, it was like such a magical moment, because at that point I was recently introduced to emulation. I didn't even have like a real desktop computer. I had a 2-in-1. I had a real shitty 2-in-1, like one of those big monitor TVs that had all-in-ones, and it could run things, but at the bare minimum. And I installed Dolphin for the first time. I found out about Wii and GameCube emulation. I was just so amazed how these people were able to preserve these games, and you could run them in 4K 60 100 plus FPS, and it's such a beautiful thing. You can install custom textures, you could remaster and remake your own games. I think it should be common sense that once you buy a product, it is yours. You buy something, it belongs to you. It is your property, so you have the right to do anything you want with it. And before any of you call me a pirate, I like to own my games personally. I, for the longest time, wanted to collect Nintendo games, and I had a whole Wii game collection. It's small. This is fuck. These aren't all of them, but still, I think it's really cool having a physical gaming collection, because at an instant, we've seen a lot more recently how these companies are trying to steal from us. We've seen Ubisoft with their garbage ass launcher. Somebody had a problem where they were completely locked out of their games for some reason. Microsoft recently with Minecraft forcing you to move your Mojang account into a Microsoft account, and those people that weren't able to migrate their accounts are now officially locked out of the game, so they have to buy a brand new copy of Minecraft to even play the game. Makes no fucking sense to me. Never should you be locked out of a product that you bought, no matter how long ago you bought it. I'm just now remembering how on TikTok I saw there's, for some reason on my For You page, I got like these sequence of videos of people that bought a Switch during quarantine, and they had, like, you know, the basic games. They had Mario Kart, they probably had Odyssey or not, Breath of the Wild, and they obviously got Animal Crossing, because everybody had Animal Crossing at some point. And they had, you know, the basic Switch games, and they were complaining how they spent basically 200, because this was also around the time where the light was like popping, and a lot of these people were complaining how they bought these Switches for $200, $300, and then they never touched them ever again after like 2021. not even with just Nintendo. The same thing's happening with the PS5. A lot of people are now realizing that there aren't many PS5 exclusive games, and for the better, those PS5 games are now coming to Steam and with PC releases. So I guess that's a positive side to it, a very positive side to it, if you will. But on the other hand, Nintendo are slowly locking away their old collection of games, and it's up to modders and people that like emulating like me to preserve these games. Now, I'm not going to be afraid to say, I think, and there's this meme, everybody knows the meme that it's always morally okay to pirate Nintendo games, and I've always believed that. I think Nintendo has made it very clear the type of company that they are, and they do not give a shit about any of us, and they've made that very clear. Listen, they could be the most family friendly to make pop out the like amazing masterpieces, and listen, I loved Tears of the Kingdom, I loved Mario Wonder. Did I buy either of them? I think it's so important for us gamers to have as much freedom and free will to customize the games we play. If you buy a game and you want to mod it, you should be able to. You shouldn't have de novo. You shouldn't have things like de novo, and like how recently Capcom is injecting old Resident Evil games with their stupid ass DRM. There was an incident recently with Monster Hunter World. With Monster Hunter World on Steam Deck, they injected their dumbass, their own DRM into the Steam release of the game, and now it made it unplayable on Steam Deck. I'm pretty sure they fixed the problem now, but that should never be an outcome where you have to implement anti-piracy software into your games that makes it unplayable on certain platforms. That's just unbelievable. No matter what anybody does, even with de novo, games are still going to be piratable. Games are still going to be cracked. Modders will always find a way. Now again, I like to mention that I don't pirate my games all the time. I do pirate games, but I don't pirate every game that I play. And my Steam account is very much living proof that I don't like to pirate most of my games. I like to keep record. I like to track my hours. I like to track achievements. I like to show progress to friends. I just like having, if like I mentioned on my live stream before, that if Nintendo were to release their games, I can't speak for everybody, but if Nintendo and these console exclusive games were finally released on Steam or PC, well, mainly Steam, because I'm not gonna buy a game on Epic Games. Just never gonna do that. But if Nintendo were to start releasing their games on Steam, I would buy them, full price or not, on sale or not. I would buy Nintendo games on Steam. I'm being 100% honest. If Nintendo games were to release on Steam the next day with achievements and all the stuff that comes with typical Steam games, I would pay full price for them. That would be my simple solution to getting rid of piracy and most of emulation, if you will, since that was their main argument with Yuzu, that most people were pirating because of Yuzu, which by the way is a really stupid fucking reason for blaming most piracy on Yuzu, which by the way, I hope everybody knows that Yuzu didn't promote piracy at all. If you went anywhere on their guide, you went anywhere on their Discord, they did not promote piracy. They actually made it very difficult to you weren't able to play Tears of the Kingdom on Yuzu when the game leaked. You were only able to emulate it until after they released a certain update, and then you could play it without a patch file. But it was, even if with that patch file mod that you installed into Yuzu, it was very much not playable at all. And Tears of the Kingdom is still very much not playable on certain platforms, but you know, still. I would very much like to mention that the fact that I've been busy all week is because I've been tearing open my 2DS and trying to, because a long time ago, I can't remember when or exactly how long ago, but my 2DS touchscreen just stopped working all of a sudden. And if you don't know, 3DS or 2DS without touchscreen or without a touchscreen working is basically useless. You can't factory reset it. That's basically the main input besides the analog and the D-pad for a DS. So for the longest time, I haven't been able to tear open my 2DS since I didn't have the proper tools. But since the shell casings and the analog stick replacements came with the screws and everything to open up Nintendo stuff, I was finally able to open it up. But in the process of opening my 2DS, I accidentally cut let me see if I can show this. I accidentally cut the ribbon cable for the analog stick, and I also kind of broke the digitizer for the touchscreen, which I guess is why it broke initially, but that's even more work for me to do. I guess I kind of gave up on the project, but I will get back into it because I do want to fix my 2DS. But yeah, I think modding and customizing is one of the most fun things you could do with things that you own, and I do endorse it if you want. If you have the tools and you're careful enough, go ahead. It is fun. For the longest time, I didn't want to open my Joy-Cons because I heard it was such a dangerous and scary process. Yeah, they're true. If you don't properly use the right tools for this, you will break your Joy-Con. I'm pretty sure I did break a Joy-Con at some point because I did try opening a Joy-Con a few years back, and the ribbon cable, I just have really bad luck with ribbon cables for some reason. But yeah, if you want to mod your stuff, be real careful with it. But go ahead, do not feel afraid because these companies they want to scare you into not opening your stuff. And if it's yours, well, I'm just simply trying to say I'm just yapping now. What I'm trying to say is that if you own something and you bought it with money that you own, you have physically, you have every right to do whatever the hell you want with it. This would be a great time to mention as well the fact that yes, Yuzu and Citra are down, and the functionality in the multiplayer of those emulators are now not working, but they still work, but they don't like officially, since you know they shut down all the forum and the official websites for them. But there is a way to still play Yuzu and Citra games through multiplayer with LAN play. It's awesome. I don't think I could share it in this video. Feel free to search it up. I think it's pretty much out there. There's a bunch of Reddit posts, a bunch of subreddit posts that you could find to do it easily. It's like just editing 2 lines of text in your config file. But yeah, going back to how I accidentally banned my Switch, or got my Switch banned from modding it, I don't think it's the worst thing. At first, obviously, I was scared and I regret it. I definitely could have been more careful since I modded my Switch 3 other times. You know, I should be well prepared to protect my Switch from being banned. But no, I went in carelessly and I got it banned. But Nintendo Online does not justify it being $20. Like, I'm being completely transparent here. There's no factor that makes Nintendo's online membership worth it at all. Their online servers are garbage and very slow. We've seen everywhere how laggy and just unresponsive they are most of the time. Like, I do not remember a single time that there wasn't just some sort of lag going on. Even with my friend Xander, he lives not very far from me, and we just tried to play Mario Kart and it would just lag for no reason. and I used to have bad internet, but I think mine is decent now. But Xander has okay internet as well. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to play Mario Kart without a decent connection. It just doesn't make any sense. Limiting cloud saves. Now PlayStation also limits cloud saves to PlayStation. You could upload and download your saves from PlayStation Plus, but it actually works. You get what I mean? PlayStation and Sony have. I don't want to glaze Sony in any way. They're also pretty bad at consumerism. Recently, PlayStation Plus also raised their prices, and even though I don't pay for it anymore, I do think it's still worth it since you get free games. Like, you get at least 2 free games per month. There are a bunch of things that make PlayStation Plus worth it, and now they have separate plans. Even though it is streaming older games, it is still access to older games. And I think kudos to PlayStation for finally allowing their backlog playable on a modern console. Should have been done a long time ago, and they should be running natively, but whatever, that's the best they can do then. I think it's really shitty how they made it so Animal Crossing saves were only available through online, and that is just so scummy of them. I don't know what it is technically that they had to do it only for Animal Crossing, but definitely they could have found a workaround. I know they definitely made sure to bank on the idea that Animal Crossing was just a huge hit during quarantine, so they took advantage of that, and they made it so saves could only be done with their online membership. And I'm afraid that unless I buy a new Switch and buy a subscription, that is the only way to access my old island. And I'm not interested in that, so fuck you then, Nintendo. But yeah, over probably a decade already, I've been aware of how anti-consumer Nintendo has been. So ever since they came out with the statement of that stick drift is not a real problem, and even though they go out of their way to say that, oh, we can repair it for you for free, I'm not gonna wait and ship and pay money to get a Joy-Con fixed just for it to break a week later. That's how weak these sticks are. I'm not interested in doing that. I was never interested in doing that. But as I was saying before I went on my tangent, all you need if you really want to emulate any Nintendo game that has motion controls, just get Joy-Cons. They're not cheap. $80, $70, I don't even remember, for Joy-Cons is pretty fucking expensive. And if you want to make them worth, you have to probably spend another $40 for custom shells if you want them to look good, and custom buttons so you could fix the basic inputs that not even Nintendo could get right. Which doesn't. Another thing that doesn't make sense with me is that they did the Pro Controller so well, and I think it's so scummy that they made an almost perfect controller that's not the Joy-Cons. So you're basically forced to get Joy-Cons with the Switch console, but then you have realized that there's a better controller that you could use separately, which is like what, another $70? It's really scummy. I used to have a Pro Controller, but then I returned it because it doesn't make sense to me having 2 separate controllers for one console. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like for my Steam Deck, I have the 8BitDo Ultimate controller, which is shaped exactly like a Pro Controller because it's just that comfortable. And it comes with back buttons, and it comes with different it comes with a USB, so you could switch between 2.4G Bluetooth, or you could just switch between whatever you want to plug in the USB, and you connect to that instantly. It's such 8BitDo. I love 8BitDo. I bought like 3 of their controllers and I use them daily. I love 8BitDo. And I think buying third-party stuff is ultimately better than buying first party Nintendo stuff. I will always believe that until Nintendo proves me wrong and they do something fucking amazing, and they would have to basically release a brand new line. They have to restructure their entire business model to make me like them again. Which brings me back to the entire point of this video. I'm gonna be boycotting Nintendo. I'm going to be going out of my way to not buy Nintendo products, and if there is a way to play a new Nintendo AAA Nintendo game, I will find a way without paying any money. I'm going to admit that here on camera. I don't think it is worth getting anything Nintendo anymore, and I that's just the truth about it. I modded my Switch. I could play any game I want on it natively on the console it was meant to be played on, or not. I could just play it on my Steam Deck, which I already do. I basically mod and play every single Nintendo game I ever want on my Steam Deck, and I think it's just gonna be like that until Nintendo releases a console that's actually good, you know, 60 FPS, at least 1080p on every single game. I mean, I think it's just ridiculous how, and don't get me wrong, I think Switch games look and play amazing still, but it's the fact that they're on old, shitty hardware that is more than a decade old. You're literally playing a fucking mobile game on a $300 console. It makes no sense whatsoever. The Switch does not justify its price, and neither does the OLED, by the way. The OLED is barely even worth it than a normal Switch, especially since it's not even patchable. If you wanted to mod a Switch OLED, it's not possible as far as I'm aware. I were to recommend anything, I think the Steam Deck is the best portable console ever. I don't know about the Legion Go or the Asus, the ROG Ally, I don't know what it's called. But if you, I'm speaking to anybody out here, if there's anybody even watching this video that doesn't have a Nintendo console and is thinking about it, or doesn't have any console, or maybe you don't even have a computer, I definitely recommend a Steam Deck. A Steam Deck is the most user-friendly space to get into because it's Steam. Most PC games, and I mean like 98% of PC games that do come out will be released on Steam. The other 2% is Epic Games exclusive, which another fuck you too for Epic Games keeping some of their games exclusive, which is not limited to Kingdom Hearts. Now if you know me, I hate Kingdom Hearts, but keeping that franchise locked behind Epic Games is the stupidest thing ever. If you want to make money, release it on Steam. It's that fucking simple. But then again, my opinion means nothing. This channel is way too small for me to leave any impact of any sort. So this video is basically useless, but I had to get it out there. I've been just spending the last week to a week or two playing around with my Steam Deck and my Switch, making sure I don't need to support Nintendo anymore. I think I could finally, I know I could finally take off my chains of Nintendo. I basically feel like Kratos when he takes off his rags at the end of 2018. That's basically me releasing Nintendo from, oh, I need to support them. No. And when I'm looking forward to Luigi's Mansions 2 HD and 1,000 Year Door, because I've always wanted to play that game. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to buying them, but I will play them when they come out. I'm not going to specify how, or I'm going to continue using Dolphin. I'm going to continue using every single Nintendo console emulator till the day I die. And that's the way it's going to be, because you cannot kill off an emulator just because you feel like a Nintendo. Well, you basically did, and you got away with it, but this president that you established by bullying Yuzu and Citra into shutting them down, that's not fucking fair at all. So just keep in mind you've lost a long time supporter and fan. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you agree with me, and if you don't, tell me why. If you're a Nintendo fanboy, I'd like to hear you cry in the comments, and I'd like to bully you. So yeah, that's all for me today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.